Good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. And I'll look to Ms. Morse for the roll call.
Thank you. Mayor Levy?
Here.
Gary Brevetto?
Here.
Bob Carlson?
Here.
Carol Harvey?
Here.
Ken Matthews?
Here.
Noel Sawyer?
Here.
John Schaefer?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you will all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, you will all like this agenda tonight, I'm sure. We will start with ceremonies and presentations, and we have my friend Deb Miller here to give her annual presentation and update of the Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. So, Deb, you've been here a lot longer than I have. Take it away. How many times have you done this?
This will be my 8th time that I've been here doing this. So, and for some reason, Mayor, tonight I'm very nervous. I don't know if it's because you're sitting in the mayor's seat or what. So, first of all, Mayor and City Council men and women, I want to say thank you very much for having me here to make this presentation. I will forward the PowerPoint presentation to Suzanne so that she can forward out to you all as well. But one of the lessons I've learned is if you pass it out ahead of time, everybody's looking. And so we're going to quickly go through this because I too saw that it's a very light agenda, and I'm probably standing between you and going home. So we're going to make this quick. So, as you know, the Chamber has the Visitor Center contract with the city, and when we report out, we use it as the fiscal year, October 1st of 2013 through September 30th of 2014. Tonight I'm going to talk about 4 areas. I'm going to talk about travel and tourism. I'm going to talk about the Visitor Center. I'm also going to talk about immersion, and the immersion is going to be a kind of a fun little exercise for you as well. And we're going to talk about the return on investment for the city for the Visitor Center contract and how we get there. So first we're going to talk about travel and tourism. I'm not sure why it's going blank in between. It didn't do that at work. So travel and tourism, what is it? I put together a little wordle. In essence, it's vacation, it's travel, it's mountains, it's all the things that we look to do when we take time off or when we're looking at people coming to our region. You can see through this little graphic here that travel and marketing leads to increased visitor trips. It leads to additional visitor spending and also new jobs and growth. And we're going to go through a little bit. I like statistics, so I'm going to bring a few statistics to you about travel and tourism and economic impact for the nation. So you're going to see $2.1 trillion in economic impact. That's just for the nation, and certainly we want some of those dollars. You're also going to see that $134 billion is generated for local, state, and federal governments. 1.7 million a minute of direct spending by residents and international travel is spent here in the U.S. Travel and tourism is America's #1 large employer. You're going to see that 1 out of 9, or 14.9 million jobs in America are through travel and tourism, and 1 out of 9 jobs are in the U.S. depends on travel and tourism. $209.5 billion payroll for travel and tourism. Again, this is something that we reach for, we try to get. 91.9 billion tax revenue is collected from leisure travel, and the reason I put that in there is that's what we focus on is leisure travel. We don't focus on the business traveler and what they're spending, but we focus on the leisure traveler through the visitor center. And again, 3 out of the 4 trips are domestic trips or leisure. I point that out because much of the advertising we do has to do with daycations and staycations. We focus from Denver down to Trinidad, out east, and out to west to Park County. That's kind of the area that we focus on. And you're going to see later on in the presentation that with our sales tax increase, lodging tax increase, we believe that our focus of advertising has had an impact on this as well. Top leisure travelers, 2 things stand out to me here. I don't know about the rest of you, but visiting relatives and visiting friends, most of us have an extra room. All those people we know throughout the country seem to come here to visit us. They love the region, so that fits for us as well. These next dollars are astounding to me for the source of travel spending. $209.2 billion in food service. Neil, I hope through the Swiss Chalet you get a part of that as people come through here too. But those numbers are just outstanding for the amount of money that is spent for travel and tourism. Let's talk a little bit about area travel information. And information is gathered through the Chamber's Visitor Center. Top 5 states, again, I just mentioned that we focus on Colorado region, so it's not surprising that Colorado's our #1 state as far as visiting the region. The next 4 states I'm going to refer to as flatlanders, and you're going to understand a little bit later in the presentation why I say that. The top 5 states with phone calls, again, focused on Colorado. You see Oklahoma falls out, Illinois comes into that, still a flatlander state. Now, the next statistic has to do with our international visitors. We're up 16% this year on international visitors coming through the Visitor Center. And I have a quick story to tell you about the Czech Republic that we've added at the last because the young gentleman stopped in on Monday in the Visitor Center. He comes in, he has his pack on, looks to me about 40, 50 pounds. He's been hiking the Colorado Trail, and somewhere he got out of line with the trail and ended up in Woodland Park and ended up lost. Ended up at the Visitor Center. I don't know how. We didn't ask a lot of questions, but he'd been gone for 30 days and out of touch with reality for 30 days, no email, nothing. He comes in, he uses our Visitor Center kiosk computer to be able to catch up with his email, get in touch with family, because he was leaving to go back home in 5 days to Prague. He spent part of Monday afternoon with us and about 3 hours on Tuesday with us, and as he turned to leave, he said to our staff and to our Visitor Center volunteer, I hope if you ever come over to visit with us in the Czech Republic that our Visitor Center is as kind hospitality to you and information as you have been to us. Well, to me, that's the epitome of what we're supposed to be. And it made the day of our staff and our volunteer, I got to tell you. So those are the types of things that we hear in the Visitor Center office. These are statistics, and most of you know these. Noel, I think they're new to you, that we have 95 rooms, about 233 heads to bed here, and there's a formula we use for that for the city limits, 219 RV and tent campsites. So let's talk about Woodland Park, or Teller County, which encompasses Woodland Park. About 2,900 rooms, almost 3,000 people can stay in the 694 cabins. And then with the RV and tent sites, that's pretty unlimited. We don't know how many are staying in a camper or whatever. Seems like a lot, but I can tell you today it's not enough to meet the demand of our region. So one of the things that we hope is to see increased lodging for our region. I can't talk tonight without talking about Charis Bible College. And I'll go further and explain why we're going to talk about Charis Bible College tonight. We all know that the college students are here, but how much impact from a travel tourism perspective do we have? Well, Campus Days brought over 800 people to town to look at the campus to see whether they're going to go to school. The Bible Conference brought 1,600 people to town in July for a week. The Healing Conference brought 1,700 people to town. They had to actually camp the 1,700. They couldn't take any longer. And this week alone, they're holding the Ministers' Conference. There's not a room to be had in our region at all. it's booked up. So Charis Bible College not only is having an economic impact from business, but certainly with the travel and tourism area as well. We work with all of those that come through our call. We work with them about lodging, restaurants, attractions, special events, and there's much more. In the Bible conference, they had a few hours to kill in between time, and they'd come in and say, what can I go do for 2 or 3 hours? So those are the different impacts that we've had with Charis and Charis has had on travel and tourism. So let's talk about the Visitor Center and what we do. Our mission. Our mission is certainly about strengthening the awareness of the region, Teller County and Woodland Park. It's all together. We want to strengthen this because it's economic development and it's growth to the community, without a doubt. Steps and how we accomplish this, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly here. Our website, 3.9 million. It's working 24 hours, 7 days a week. Our community calendar, and I'm going to brag on the calendar a little bit. We have the community calendar, but there are 3 other aspects of that. The Parks and Rec have their own calendar, the library has their own calendar, and the school has their own calendar. All of their events are rolled up into the community calendar. It's by far the most robust in the community. Anyone can put anything on this calendar as long as it's not a personal item. Social media. We learned the other day that there are 1.4 billion Facebook accounts. So social media, Facebook, we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter, out there promoting the region as well. Emails. We do receive thousands of emails that come in, request about the information about this area. We're either sending packets out or answering those requests or returning a phone call to them as well. Print ads. The ad over to the side, this is a local print ad that we just put in it was a sports publication. It's the back page of the sports publication up at Boulder for their football team. And so we're trying to reach out a little further than Denver now and look to bring people from that region down into our area. We work with media as well. We work with radio. Those are the other medias that we list. We have a large presence down at Fort Carson. The Comcast cable actually partners with Baja Cable up here, so the ads that you see are through Comcast cable. We run a lot of ads on the Weather Channel, and we see a lot of return back from that. Colorado Visitor Centers. This is the brochure. There are 10 visitor centers as you come into Colorado, various areas of the state, and this visitor center profile brochure is in that as well. This is our signature events poster. This goes out locally and regionally, and we do this every year. To get on the signature events poster, you have to be have had your event for 5 years and or have at least 5,000 people attend your event. Again, Fort Carson Expos. This just happened in August. You see we put our Oktoberfest poster up there. You can't see, but there's a little sign that says, ask us about free beer. We were inundated. The first thing every one of those soldiers wanted to know, Oktoberfest, and we let them know we're not Germany. So, but we also passed out free admission tickets and free beer tickets, and we had literally several hundreds of those returned during Oktoberfest. So it's a way to promote our region at Fort Carson and work with the soldiers and their families. Familiarization tours. If you don't know what those are, you see the school bus. We put people on a school bus. We go out and visit different attractions, hotels. We visit restaurants. We visit retail. One of the things I learned early on here is that not everybody knows everybody, and there's new things opening all the time, so we go out to visit those. This past year we were in to visit with Paul at Team Telecycle, and it was amazing what he taught us about people coming, and they've gotten here from New York. They want to rent bikes. He rents by the hour. He'll rent by the day. He's there to help people here with their visits and what they want to do. So we learn that information on those visitor tours. This is our lodging binder. The lodging binder is in every room here in Woodland Park and or every room within the county, or it's in a common area. Inside that are menus. There's information about attraction. There's information about other lodging as well. And then at the bottom of that slide, we talked about the whiteboard vacancy. From Memorial Day through Labor Day, we contact all of our lodging, and we keep a whiteboard within the office about vacancy rates, because it never surprises me now that people show up on July 4th and say, we're here, where's your room? Well, this year we had no rooms because of Charis Bible College. So those are things that we try to work with. When people come in and they don't have lodging, we'll pick up the phone and call around from the board and say, do you have a room? We see on the lodging board you have rooms. So we help people try to do that. We also accomplish our mission through our weather cam. We get thousands of impressions daily from that. And this next slide is probably the most dearest slide to me. It's kind of hard to see all of our volunteers tucked in there. This is our Christmas party last year. But we have 12 volunteers who give us over 2,500 hours of their time. These are the most professional, the most impactful, compassionate. They'll take 5 minutes, they'll take 2 hours to work with people who come through the door. Ellen Carrick, who is one of our volunteers, said to me recently that I love what I do, and she said I get to make a difference in my community, and I get to show people how great this region is. We couldn't do what we do without these volunteers, so kudos to all of them. They're not just volunteers to Sue and I, they're family as well. So I'm going to take you on a little immersion. So I can't physically take you over right now to the visitor center, but we're going to talk about what happens at the visitor center. So we're going to use this pretend family. I put them from Kansas because they're Flatlanders. When they walked up the steps coming in, they couldn't breathe. So we knew they were from Kansas or somewhere flatland. We have this happen. We have a family come in with kids, 7, 11, 14. I use this as an example. And they come in and they say, we're here now. Now what are we going to do? Well, the first thing is I can guarantee you a 7, 11, and a 14-year-old don't want to all do the same things. So we have to figure out what their interests are. So the next thing we do is start planning with them. And the number one thing that we really work when we first get someone in there is about altitude. What we don't want to happen is for them to experience altitude sickness, have a bad experience being here in Woodland Park or Teller County and not come back. And I can give you a quick example of a family from Illinois who landed in Denver, drove down, had track stars with them, teenage girls, and said, we're going to go climb the crags right now. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Well, they waited till the next day, which still wasn't enough, and the father and young son went to the dinosaur center the next day. They came back over to the visitor center to pick up more information, and their phone rang. It was the mom and 2 girls, and they were deathly ill. So they came in to see us before they left and said, you know, we should have taken your advice. So altitude is a huge thing for here, and we really work with that. The others listed there as well. We start talking to them about what their interests are and what we can help them do. It's not just families that we work with. Right now, the senior population that we're seeing come through the door for leaf peeping is huge. It's just amazing. They take off, they take that drive, they come up from Colorado Springs. We put them on the Gold Belt Drive so that they can see the leaves. We have young couples. We have newlyweds that come in that have rented a cabin, and they're looking for things to do. And another really cool story, and I put the picture in about the youth group, was in June, we had a youth pastor walk in. He had 30 youth with him that had been out in the National Forest for a week. They'd been going through leadership training and leadership class, and this was on Friday. They were still out in the forest, but he came in to see us first, and he said, I need a shower. Where can we go to put 30 kids, take a shower? Well, believe it or not, we have all that information. We started making calls, and it was Rocky Top Motel that could actually handle that number of kids. I was a little concerned when I said, well, it's going to be $5 a student. He said, ma'am, that's no problem at all. If you've ever camped in the National Forest after a week, I can understand where $5 wouldn't be a problem. So, as I talked about with our immersion, it's telephone, it's social, it's mobile apps, it's email, it's in person that we work with people in the visitor center. So let's talk a little bit about the return on investment for the city. we're going to use the same conservative-based formula that I've used for the past 8 years, only we're using the 2014 final budget projections. Also, recently released were the city sales tax numbers and the lodging tax numbers. And I had the opportunity to talk to Mr. Dingwell today to confirm my numbers up here. And we're looking at a 3.76 rise in sales tax for those months listed there that year, and a 4.6. So using the final city budget projection numbers that you have in your budget for the 3 line items, which will be lodging, property tax, and sales tax, we're going to tell you about the impact that we believe we have on the city's budget. So 39%, we believe, hands-on, we've had a touch to be able to get people in those rooms. So using your budget figures, 39% of that would equal about $37,600. 5% sales tax. We agreed we think this is a little low, but we're going to keep with the same formula we've been using. So that's about $156,000. And then 0.5% on property tax, about $8,000. Again, we think this one's low this year because we know we've had a significant impact with Kara's staff members who've come in and who've recently bought homes this year. So the total impact for the city's budget is about $202,000. So how do we arrive at our ROI? We look at the visitor center operation cost. For administration, which is copy paper, running our copier, keeping it up, because we hand out local hikes. In fact, Bill has a hike that he's given us. It's not a hike, it's actually an OHV trail that we hand out. We make those copies and pass those out, work with them. And of course, our property insurance, about $12,000. The next line item is advertising and tourism. Almost all of that is our advertising budget that we utilize. We do belong to a few tourism organizations that keep us on top of what's going on in the region. And then staffing. The busy time, it's all 3 of us on deck. And it may be on weekends. Mountain Arts Festival, we're all 3 in there on deck working with everybody. Total cost then to operate the visitor center, just a little over $52,000. The visitor center contract for the time frame we talked about was around $39,000. So the chamber also invests about $13,000 to be able to operate the visitor center. That's about a $5.31 return on investment, and we feel very proud to be able to do that. Our staff, our volunteers, and I hope you can tell tonight the passion that we have in doing this. We feel so fortunate to be a part of this community and part of this region and do this as well. I also have with me tonight, I want to introduce, I've got 2 board members out in the audience. I have Marilyn Dugal and Jim Olson out in the audience with us tonight that help support our operations of what we do. So at that, I'll open it up for questions, and I tried to go fast.
You did great. Thank you very much. Council, we have questions?
Bob.
We're very sensitive about the words tax increase. I think you meant tax revenue.
Tax revenue. I apologize.
Thank you.
Debbie, I've always meant to ask you this question. You do a great job with Fort Carson, like the expo you did this year. How can I help you reach out to Peterson Air Force Base and the Air Force Academy? I'm retired Army, and I'm glad you go down to Carson, but you've got a great audience at those 2 bases. In fact, a lot of times I will take brochures or whatever you've passed out at the meeting and put them in the men's and women's restroom at work, and the facility manager started calling it potty training, but they go a long way. So we need to talk about how I can help you reach that audience.
Absolutely. I would love to set up a meeting and do that with you. In my former positions, we worked very closely with our Air Force bases that the proximity, we were very close there at Scott Air Force Base and also down at Charleston. And we also want to reach out as well to the Air Force Academy. We had some of the cadets come and help us at Oktoberfest, and I got to tell you, as Sean Keene said at our board meeting yesterday, they know how to run a tight ship, and they kept things going. So we certainly want to do that. We'll sit down and meet. Thank you.
Let's do lunch.
Absolutely.
Debbie, thank you for everything you do. I have to say that this summer, my wife and I did travel. We went to other visitor centers, and the one here in Woodland Park is top notch.
Thank you. Thank you so
Definitely owe it
much.
all to you.
It's a concerted effort from everyone, and we work hard. And I think one of the things in my mind is, as someone comes in, and we had this happen during the Waldo Canyon fire, they couldn't get to their lodging facility. And the first thought that went through our mind is, there by the grace of God go I. What if it was us? And what if we were traveling? So we want to treat them as we want to be treated. So we all work with that in mind. So thank you.
Sure. And I have to say the website is amazing.
Thank you.
When I need to find out what's going on in this town, I go to your website first.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? I've got a kind of a tough question, I guess. Here's what I hear sometimes, and help me understand what we're doing in this regard. Someone walks into the visitor center, and the thought is that the chamber, people in the chamber, get kind of first billing, where, say, a restaurant, maybe I am concerned, go to the Swiss Chalet and not pay any attention or not mention, if you will, someone that wasn't part of the chamber. What are we doing in that regard?
You know, it is a chamber and a visitor center, and yes, as you can tell, we are funded by the chamber specifically. We do have the contract for the visitor center. So there is a wall that we have that is dedicated to our chamber members. But we also have within the visitor center, we have all of the paraphernalia, I call it paraphernalia, but all of the information about the region. When somebody's looking at vacationing, if they're here for a week, they're going to go to the Garden of the Gods. They're going to go down the hill to different things. They're going to go rafting at Cotopaxi. They're going to leave our region. What we try to do is pull them back to our region. But yes, our members invest in us, so we do invest back in our members as well.
Anybody else? Great presentation, Deb. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I apologize. I am going to exit. I'm lucky enough to have brought several of the workforce investment board members are up here this evening, and I sit on their board. We are going to be going out tomorrow for a tour of Charis Bible College, and I'm going to go have dinner with them. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Okay, we will move on. 4B, and I will call Ralph Holloway. Norm, are you ready to go with your camera? I'm going to start, Ralph, I think.
You're going to start? Okay.
I'm going to start. I've got a gift here to the city of Woodland Park from Judith Leach, I'm sorry. And she's the mother-in-law of Susan Leach, who was a former Woodland Park Arts Alliance chair, correct?
Correct.
And this reads, whereas the arts are the embodiment of all things beautiful and entertaining in the world, and whereas the arts enhance every aspect of life in Woodland Park by enriching our life and exerting a profound positive influence on the education of our children, and shows that the arts help to foster an appreciation of beauty in all of its artistic forms, and whereas the Woodland Park Arts Alliance helps to promote all the arts in our city, and whereas the month of October has been recognized as National Arts and Humanities Month throughout our country for over 2 decades. Therefore, I, as mayor, do hereby proclaim October 2014 as Woodland Park Arts Month and call upon all its citizens to celebrate and promote the arts and culture in this glorious Rocky Mountains. And I guess I should come down and
Stand for a photo.
Well, we're hoping this will hang somewhere around here.
see what these guys want you.
We appreciate getting that opportunity to do this for National Arts Month. I would tell you that it's not happened in El Paso or Teller County until this year. We've been working very strongly with Copper down in the Springs, who does the peak radar. They have a new director. He's been up here twice and talked to our group to help us get started, and so he decided that it was time for the El Paso and Teller County to get involved with the nation and to start celebrating National Arts Month. And so that was the reason for doing this, and this is the first effort. It's the first effort for them in the Colorado Springs area as well as for us. And so you will see, if you stay posted and on there, that we have right now, just so you'll know what we're planning, and this came up real quick, obviously, but in October the 17th through the 24th, they're in all of the businesses around in the old downtown area. There's going to be artwork from the Columbine Elementary students. It will be just sort of like the same thing that we've done for the past several years when we did with Columbine art auction and put it in the business. It's the same concept. Their work will be there until the 24th, and then on October the 26th at the Ute Pass Cultural Center there is going to be a artist reception. The kids will all be there. There's going to be entertainment. There will be all kinds of things that are happening. They'll be there with their art, and as we did in the past where we gave them some prints of their original artwork to show them how you can sign and number it and sell it. That was some of the best things that ever happened when we did that in the past, watch those kids be able to sell their art and actually get something. So we're going to do that again and give each one of those students where the work was been hanging 5 prints and talk to them about this, the signing and numbering and selling it, and they get to pocket all of that money. Then they'll be there. The kids are going to be there to sign autographs and to do interviews, and we're just making it all about them and the elementary school and their art program. Then on November the 1st through the 29th, that work, as well as work from Summit Elementary, it will continue, and it's going to go to Park State Bank and hang in the Eichmann Gallery for a month. So this is our first initial effort, just like what they're trying to do down and get some things started down in the El Paso County. I think actually we're probably doing a little bit more in this short period of time, getting some things started in as far as just something strictly for Arts Month that we're doing here. And so we appreciate that opportunity, and there'll be a lot of things. I'm hoping some other things that we'll have that will be posted, and I'm sure you'll be getting, I know you all are all on the email list, and so you'll be getting that information. And again, thank you, Neil, and board for making this Arts Month here and celebrating that here in Woodland Park.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Most of you know this. I'll just quick plug for Ralph, and the work that he's done with the Arts Alliance in our community has been phenomenal. He just stepped down as chairman of the Arts Alliance board, but continues to be a huge part of what that board does and a huge part of our community. So thank you very much, Ralph. Very much appreciated. Okay, we will move on to item number 5, and I believe we have no additions or deletions.
That's correct.
So consent calendar, Cindy?
Just the one item, that's the approval of the minutes from the September 18th regular city council meeting.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve the consent calendar. Second.
Thank you. Rovetto?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Oh, if there's no unfinished business and no ordinance on initial posting and no public hearings, which there are none of, we'll move on to new business. I'm going to call on Bob in just a second, and want to make it clear to everybody here how we're going to proceed on this issue. It's not really an issue. Council has, as you all know, voted to allow our community to decide on the Woodland Park Aquatic project, which will come up in November. So that is done, and we will vote on that November 4th. Today we're going to talk about approving a resolution in support of that question. If it's okay with council, normally we do not have to have public comment when we're doing this type of thing. However, we have 5 people that have signed up to speak today. So since we've already decided this is going to go to a vote, and this will be relative to this approval of this resolution, if it's okay with council, I will allow these 5 people to speak for 2 minutes. Do you think that's fair?
2 minutes each.
2 minutes each. Sorry. 2 minutes each. So that'll be the parameters, and we'll talk about it. Council will talk about it. Well, let's put it this way. We'll present it, and prior to the time we vote on it, we will give those people that are interested in spending 2 minutes at the podium and giving us their input. That said, Bob, I will turn it over to you.
Okay. As the year-round benefits of having an aquatic center is intuitively obvious, I wasn't actually going to say anything this evening. But earlier today, I received a call from a lawyer reminding us that under the Fair Campaign Practices Act, the only time I, as a city council member, can advocate on behalf of the project is right now under this agenda item. So I had some thoughts about free speech and everything, and thought, well, if I'm only limited to be able to say it now, I better say something. So bear with me. As I said before, I think the benefits of this project are well known by most people. So I wanted to address really what I've heard from my constituents over the last several weeks about why they wouldn't be voting for 2A. And not that I am going to convince them to vote otherwise, but I think it reflects more on us in addressing their concerns that we, in fact, are trying to listen and mitigate. I had one lady tell me that the voters have rejected the aquatic project on two previous occasions, 1996, 2010, and why weren't we listening to the voters? Indeed, in 2010, 2,118 votes were cast. 1,694 voted against it, and 423 votes voted in favor of the YMCA project. Why in the world did we think 4 years later we could reverse this 80-20 vote? Well, I would like to think that we listened and have learned from those previous experiences. In 2010, the YMCA scope was for an entire recreation facility at a very much higher price. The higher price, therefore, required at least a 1% tax increase. Additionally, the scope included fitness facilities which would have competed against private fitness facilities. So the city council at the time did not support the project on the basis of the tax increase. And so the referendum was launched. Not only was city council actively opposed to that referendum, but the owners of the fitness centers mounted a very vocal opposition to publicly funding facilities which would compete against their private facilities. This project is limited to aquatic facilities. It does not compete against any existing or future fitness facilities. At this reduced scope and cost, this council has determined that it is affordable within existing revenue streams from existing tax rates. There is no tax increase. So we have learned, hopefully, from past experience. Then I heard from those who would rather use the funds available to pay off the bonds to reduce the existing tax rates. This raises the issue as to whether our taxes are too high. So I've done extensive research in that regard too. I would submit that the taxes we pay for a full-service city government are at the low end compared to other similarly sized cities in Colorado. Specifically, I've compared our sales tax rates with the other non-ski mountain towns which have aquatic centers. Ski mountain towns have much higher tax rates because they're soaking the tourists. So I've had to compare it to non-ski because that would be unfair. Woodland Park at 6.9% tax rate is at the low end that ranges from Idaho Springs, which is at 6.9 also, to Glenwood Springs at 8.6. The average sales tax of these dozen towns, mountain towns that have aquatic centers, is 8%. The fact that Woodland Park can afford an aquatic center without reducing the excellent level of services that we provide our citizens speaks well of this council's stewardship of our scarce resources, your tax dollars. Finally, I've heard from those who oppose the project on the basis of, I'm not using the pool, so why should I pay for it? Or, I don't like the location. Or, I think it's too fancy. For those who only want the city to provide what they can use, or have to have it their way or not at all, I would only remind them that we are a community. We can't please everyone. A community seeks the greatest good for its citizens, not just individuals. This vote for me is therefore not about whether we want an aquatic center. It's ultimately about whether we are a community. That's why I'm voting for 2A, and I would hope that our citizens would give seriously consideration to that also. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Anybody else? Comments?
I'd like to add on to that a lot of these people that don't want the pool because they don't want to pay for it, they're not going to use it. I remind them that a lot of these people that don't have kids pay for our school systems also, and they don't have kids going to the school system. So that's kind of the line of thinking there. If they don't have kids going to school, so they shouldn't pay for the school system, but they do. So I think we
Not to mention the people that have been hiking and camping for a week, they can go jump in the pool.
Yeah, they can go and use the pool to clean
Shower
off.
first.
Not well, shower first, please. It'll really bring a new dynamic to this city, and we need this here. We really need this here. We do need an Olympic Training Center. Maybe the Olympic Training Center will come up here and train. There's so many things we're not even seeing right now. The opportunities that are available with this pool.
Thank you, Noel. Anyone else? Ken?
I totally support what's been said. I'm not going to add anything to it. I think it covered the ground pretty well.
Absolutely. Okay, that said, tell me the right procedure. Should we have a motion and a second before we get comment? Call for a motion.
I move that we approve the resolution to be adopted at this council meeting, that the registered electorate of the city of Woodland Park is encouraged to vote in favor of the ballot question 2A.
Second. Resolution
781.
Second, John? Okay, thank you. Let's do this and we'll hold off on the vote until we hear from these people. The first name I have on my list is Thomas Brazil. To remind everybody, we'll have 2 minutes and Cindy will keep track. And if you'll just come and give us your name and address, appreciate it.
Tom Brazil, 329 Paradise Circle, Woodland Park. I was going to read you part of an article that I've written. I will skip a lot of it. You're planning to put solar panels on the aquatic center? Don't do this. If you're planning to use natural gas, don't do this. Let's use some of the state-of-the-art systems that are now available. A few months ago, a company called Solar Hydrogen Trends has come up with a device. It's about the size of a suitcase. You put 414 watts in, you get 221,000 watts per hour out. Okay? It runs on water and electricity. It's a heating system. It produces hydrogen gas. The hydrogen gas is burned to heat the water system. Okay? If you don't like that solution, then this month a demonstration of a self-running generator from Blacklight Power Inc. here in the United States. They have a system that is in violation of the rules of physics, but they're going to demonstrate this. Okay?
You have 30 seconds, Tom.
Jeez. Another solution is that Mr. Rossi has an ECAT device in Italy. They just imported a 1 megawatt machine into North Carolina, but it's not American made, and our government hasn't supported any of the cold fusion devices at all. In fact, they're trying to stop it. I suggest that you look into these for use for the center.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
By the way, the ECAT, each cell that produces 8 kilowatts is twice the size of this book.
Thank you. Jerry Simon?
I'll be quick and try to keep this under 2 minutes. Jerry Simon, 365 Sun Court, Woodland Park, Colorado. I just want to thank everybody for bringing this ballot initiative forward and this resolution forward. And I'm speaking for all the people that I've talked to over the years, which includes the lady who had polio in 1948 and needs an aquatic center to do her aquatic therapy. It includes a woman who with a special needs child who wants a pool to do therapy for her child. It includes seniors who want to do low impact aerobics where they can be warm and in a secure environment. and it especially includes the kids who, when they come see our drawings, light up and say, when are we going to get the pool? So thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much. I think I can say great job, too, with Woodland Aquatic Project. As our leader, Catherine Perry.
Catherine Perry, 330 Ponderosa Court in Woodland Park. I'll be quick as well. As a long-term resident parent who's raised children from preschool here in Woodland Park through now in college. Had to go down the hill for that, sadly. But I felt the lack as my children were growing up of a pool. And as a resident who plans to retire here and live here till the day I die, I don't want to feel that lack when I need it in my later years as well. So I want to thank our city leadership for finding a way to pay for it in a way that meets the demands of the citizenship, and to thank our city council for supporting it.
Thank you very much. I think one of those offspring will be next. Will Schneckner. How are you, Will?
I'm good. How are you? Will Schneckner, 330 Ponderosa Court, Woodland Park, Colorado. As a student and as a student, I have witnessed firsthand the lack of activities for people my age to do in Woodland Park. And, you know, especially in the high school age, you go hiking, you can easily find some trouble and go on an adventure you didn't plan. So me personally, I think a pool would add a much needed activity for young children and high school age children. And I'd like to thank you guys and for bringing this up, and I love the effort put forth to change the program from what has been previously proposed, instead of just proposing the same thing again, to the effect of having absolutely no tax increase, which is what I think is required to have this pass, and that mindset is going to take the city good places.
Thank you very much. Great job, Will. Steve Jerislow. Why can't I read your writing?
I'm Steve Jerislow. I live at 610 Sun Valley Drive here in Woodland Park. I want to first and foremost thank the council for its earlier action on August 17th of this year to allowing the taxpayers to vote on this. And this is an appropriate thing for the taxpayers to vote on under Tabor and just the fundamental fairness. I could not say any more eloquently than Bob Carlson did the benefits to the community of this project as augmented by other council persons and people who've already spoken from the audience. I think this is an idea whose time has clearly come, and I've already spoken to about 4 groups, community organizations. I have it on my calendar to speak to about at least 8 more. I know Ken Matthews has been quite concerned to make sure that we get the word out, that we educate the public on the advantages of this initiative. Your point is extremely well taken, Ken. We're working on it. You will be seeing a number of things in writing. It was already inserted into the Courier View about a public meeting coming up on Monday. This coming Monday at the UPass Cultural Center, we have a 1:30 p.m. meeting with the public and a 7 p.m. meeting with the public, which I hope as many people as possible attend to ask questions of our architect, engineer, and city officials. I also want to thank David Buddy, who's not here tonight, for proving to the council that this initiative is financially feasible. All I can say is, based on 1 year ago, on October 3rd last year, we had a meeting, and it didn't go quite as well as I would have liked, but it was the beginning of the turnaround.
Thank you, Steve.
On this effort. So thank you very much for allowing the voters to vote on it.
That's all I have on my list. Would anyone else like to speak? If not, then we'll call for a vote. I'm sorry.
Can I respond to the first gentleman? I'm sorry, I forgot your name. I'm not really good at this.
Mr. Brazil.
Tom Brazil. I was introduced to you as the smartest man in Woodland Park, and then you aligned all of your degrees and expertise. Certainly what we're looking for is an energy savings project. We don't want to pay any more than we have to heat the water or light the building. So please get together with us after this. Certainly during the design phase, if this passes on 4 November, we're going to need all these kind of ideas. So appreciate you speaking out this evening. Thank you.
I'm sure that new energy could save 30 or 40% of your energy costs.
Thank you very much.
So this is the last time we can talk about this as a council. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
So I'd just like to thank Bob. Congratulations.
Thank
Your
you.
committee. Job well done. And we'll leave it to the voters here very shortly, in fact. Less than a month. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nothing else, we will call for a vote.
Motion is to approve Resolution 781. Carlson?
Yes.
Harvey? Ms. Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Rivetto? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all very much. Great job, Woodland Aquatic Project, and clearly we're all behind you, and I'm sure anything that we can do that's legal for us, we will do what we can. So good luck. We hope to be celebrating about 4 weeks from Tuesday, if my numbers are correct. We'll move on. Public comments not on this agenda. I believe we have none. Move on to reports. We've got a few announcements this evening. First, tomorrow night, October 3rd, the 4th annual Taste of Teller benefits the Community Partnership Family Resource Center. It's at the Shining Mountain Golf Course. It starts at 5 o'clock, 5 to 8:30. You can call 686-0705 if you have any questions. I don't have any other contact information. 686-0705. But it's a great event. I've seen 200 or 300 people at that event before, so I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the golf course. Monday, October 6th, relative to what Steve Jerislow mentioned, the community information meeting on the upcoming ballot question about funding the Aquatic Center. Ute Pass Cultural Center, and we'll have 2 meetings, one at 1:30 and one at 7 o'clock. Please tell anybody that you think might be interested, pros or cons. We'd like to hear from everybody. And once again, Monday at 1:30 or 7 o'clock at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. Monday, October 6th through the 11th, the Amazing Race fundraiser for Tiffany Lambert and lymphoma research. You can call 686-0205 for information on that. Wednesday, October 8th, Pikes Peak Workforce Center Job Fair at the Hotel Elegante in Colorado Springs from 11 to 3. That's this Wednesday. Also this Wednesday, there's a Teller County Candidates Forum right here in Council Chambers from 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. On Friday, there's a really exciting event, in my opinion, the ribbon cutting at Gateway Elementary for the new turf field over there. I'm sure you've all driven by and seen what a great amenity that is and what a beautiful project that is. The kids got a chance to do a dry run, if you will, today, and it was just fun driving by to see them all jumping around out there. It's awesome. So 1:45 this coming Friday at the field at Gateway Elementary, we will have the ribbon cutting. Love to see you all there. That's going to be a great event. That piece is a nice amenity for our school system and for our community. Saturday, October 11th, Community Health Fair at the Pikes Peak Regional Hospital, 8:30 to 12, and it is free, which is appealing to all of us. Council, do you have any other reports?
Well, as you know, Mayor Levy, we attended the District 4 Colorado Municipal League meeting in Colorado Springs at the Pioneer Museum on Monday evening. And in the packet this week, I included 4 municipal proposals from jurisdictions across the state. And how that works, since I'm your representative to the Policy Committee for the Colorado Municipal League, the CML will will consider specific legislation that municipalities may want to sponsor, or they'll also sponsor positions on specific issues. They did this a few years ago when Amendment 68 came up on the ballot for a constitutional amendment. And just for the record, CML did not support Amendment 68. I provided the current policy and proposals for legislation in your packet. None of them really impact our city, but I wanted to let you know what's going on with CML. And again, invite any of you, if you want to have an issue brought to CML's advocacy powers, which are really quite influential in our state legislature, just let me know. And just let you know, the Pioneer Museum has undergone several renovations over the last couple of years. It's a beautiful facility. Just a shout out for Colorado Springs, but we had a very entertaining evening there and learned a little bit about the history of the region as well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? John?
Last Friday, the mayor and I had the pleasure of riding with our Director of Utilities, Kip Wiley, to the Independence Pass area. Long trip up and back. Purpose was to look at the collection of water and how it gets from various drainage basins around Independence Pass into the Twin Lakes reservoirs. And 33% of our water comes from those two reservoirs. We got to do a little hiking. We got to look at a lot of concrete structure. It's a story for another day, but we did go through a 4-mile tunnel that is used to divert water from the western slope to the eastern slope. The diameter of the tunnel was 9.5 feet, and I swear Kip's Jeep barely fit. And so just to make things exciting for the mayor and me, he turned off his lights a couple of times. There are no lights in the tunnel at all, but it was very interesting. And I was concerned, well, do I want to drive for 5 hours to see how we collect water? And much more informative than I expected it to be. So it's done once a year, this kind of tour. So if you get a chance next year, you ought to think seriously about going on the trip.
So the tunnel wasn't full of water?
No, it actually shut it down.
It's just for you.
So that we could travel through it, yes.
And I'm smiling because, gosh, I thought it rained and then it came right to my faucet. I didn't know anything about water. And just a phenomenal tour. And anyone that has any interest in that, certainly council, and anyone that lives here that would like to do that, I'm sure we could arrange for that next year. And you can imagine we went Independence Pass on probably 80 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, on maybe the nicest day of the year with all the leaves turning. And so it's a great experience, great educational experience, even though we were scared to death at some point. But thanks. Anybody else? The city attorney we let off, the city manager we let off. So I think we'll move on to adjournment. Thank you all for being here.